Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Well, we used to wait till dark just to get that fire going. All we need was
Welcome everyone to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Man, this is going to be a fun one because today I have a fifth-generation dairy farmer who has built her career as an environmental scientist out of love for the land and her roots in agriculture, and a fourth-generation cattle rancher turned social entrepreneur who weaves Western and urban living to feature agriculture in a unique and alluring fashion. Mix these two together, you get a Western tastemaker, visual storyteller, and a fast talker that hosts the amazing podcast and TV show called Rediscovering. Thrive Out listeners, I am pumped, excited, and jacked to bring you Natalie Kovarik and Tara Vander Dussen. Natalie and Tara, welcome to Thrive Loud.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Here.
I'm glad I got both of you talking at the same time. We figured we would coordinate this, but we can't. No deal. They're coming to us respectively from Nebraska and New Mexico, which is pretty cool. I'm coming to you from South Florida. Hopefully we're catching everybody in between and everywhere else. You guys got a pretty cool story. And here's what I want to do. I don't want to go all the way back to the womb, but I kind of want to understand how you guys came together and created this very awesome platform. I'm going to do a jump ball. Who wants to kick things off? Tara or Natalie?
I'll kick it off.
All right, now go with you.
Yeah, so you mentioned that we are in agriculture. So we do have that similarity. I grew up on a dairy farm in New Mexico, got my degree in environmental science, and Natalie grew up on a cattle ranch and actually got her degree and is practicing pharmacist. But how we came together, I feel like, is a classic millennial story. Actually, we laugh about it. We slid into each other's Instagram DMs, and obviously we didn't run into each other when one of us lives in Nebraska and one of us lives in New Mexico. But we did meet virtually online and connected because both of us were sharing about our, farm/ranch, Natalie's ranch, my farm, on social media. And at a time when a lot of farmers and ranchers weren't necessarily sharing on social media, we really connected and started collaborating, talking, just figuring out how to better share agriculture on social media. And that was really the foundation of our friendship and then ultimately our business. So it was in 2022, actually, which feels now kind of like a long ways away now that we're in 2025. We came together to build our business and our podcast together of, Discover Ag, sharing about agriculture through the podcasting platform.
I want to apologize to our listeners for saying Discover AG. I just got so excited whenever I see things all capitalized. We know it's Discover Ag, but it was just so cool. I wanted to stress it. Now they know how to
You
spell
are
it.
not the first one, and you will not be the last. I feel like maybe we have Athletic Greens to thank for everyone seeing AG and saying AG. But yeah, it's short for agriculture is what it's short for.
So first of all, awesome topic. In another day, in another podcast episode, I actually went to an agricultural undergrad school, so all connected to folks that were farmers, even though I was more on the business side, but that's unrelated. I am kind of fascinated, though, on what message is not being connected to the world. What are people missing out within the space that you're in? Because you're helping people educate and discover what's going on. I'd like to know today, like, what's a common thing that people aren't doing? Natalie, I'm going to you. What are people missing out on?
Yeah, I don't know if they're necessarily missing out on this, but I think what comes to mind when you ask this question is like our mission. And that's like as simple and as silly as it sounds, is to make like ag cool again. I do think there's like a stereotype when you say agriculture, when you say farmer, when you say rancher, of what people initially think of like the person out doing that work or even what they're actually doing too. Like there's a lot of even misinformation online regarding all of that. And so, at the core, I think, is to reconnect with people that are really removed from, what Tara and I do every day and what, those around us in our industry do. And then help shed light on the fact that like, it's fun, it's cool, it's sexy. It's all these things that is often overshadowed and looked about. And so that's like, I think kind of the biggest thing that we're really trying to bring to people that, may or may not be missing out on it.
So I looked this up. The United States, we feed 25% of the world. And it's an amazing stat because it is probably the reason we are one of the wealthiest nations in the world, is because so many people depend on us for much of the stuff that you guys deal with, whether it be food or grain or supplies or whatever it might be. Yet somehow it always goes away. There used to be this analogy: you can knock all the cities down, but you have the farms, the cities will be built back up again. You take away the farms and everything goes to shit. So from your perspective, on the perspective you have, what is the angle that you guys tackle together on the messaging on your show? Because there's some pretty interesting topics. Kind of did a little bit of we'll call it a skin dive, not a deep dive. I did like the topical level on everything that you guys do, but share with the listeners like what you guys are covering, what you're chatting about that's resonating with your audience.
Yeah. So, I always worry when we come on podcasts and we're like, hi, we're an agriculture podcast, that people are going to be like, well, I'm not in agriculture and I don't, want to hear about like commodity markets or like the grain prices, And I feel like this is where I say, like, that's not what our podcast is. And if you did kind of, like you said, a skin dive of what our podcast is we are covering trending topics that are in the ag and food space that are very relevant, though, to anyone that eats. And I know that's very broad, but I feel like we're in a world right now with social media where there is a ton of information online about food and how food's grown and what goes into our food and all of these topics, with January, I feel like even it is this like, get healthy and what are you eating? And, look at the ingredient labels. And so with our podcast, we really take trending news articles, the top 3 trending news articles every week that we see that our listeners send in, and we break it down. What you need to know, what is a layer deeper, what are the headlines not telling you? Are you being fearmonger? Do you scare tactics being used in these articles? And then we kind of give our farmer and rancher perspective on these of like, what we think is actually happening, what's going on. And so our topics can range from, they're all over the place because every single week in the news is something different. How is the FDA approving ingredients being added to our food? This week we talked about, with the election or the confirmations all coming up, the election just passing, when will the Secretary of Health and Human Services, RFK, when is his confirmation hearing? What does that mean for agriculture? What does that mean for our food? Natalie, what else? I feel like I'm like blanking right now on every topic we've ever had.
A very serious podcast, but we, like Tara said, actually a lot of our sources are trending reels or things that we see on social content. So we will pull from traditional media, but a lot of times it's a reel that's like kind of popping off talking about something. And so, yeah, we've covered, like I just pulled up our recent articles. We did like the Pop-Tart Bowl was like all over social media if you guys saw that. And so we talked a little bit like the food and the football. We've talked about Nestle is starting to use like weight loss. Meghan Markle's launching a food show. We talk a lot about celebrities and their role like in different, if they're starting restaurants or things like that. So again, it's just like something popping off on social media or in the news that has to do with food, agriculture through a pop culture lens.
Okay, pop culture lens. Very cool stuff. Mm-hmm. Not too many podcasters have the good blessing of also having a television show. Talk about how that came to be with the podcast there. Whoever wants to take it, jump ball.
Natalie, you want to kick us off?
Yep. So when we made the podcast, it was clear it was something that we were very passionate about and our listeners were very passionate about, talking about food in this manner. But we thought, gosh, there is such a visual component to farming and ranching and everything that's going on, at the start of the food chain that, again, we're not privy to. We don't see every single day. And so we thought, gosh, there's really this missing piece. Like we can come in, we can talk about all these different things and be in people's ears, as they're doing chores or driving or whatever it is. But like, how cool would it also be able to like show them some of these things we talk about? And so that was really like the birth and the vision of the TV show was like, how can we show, again, rooting back to like kind of our mission, unconventional things like where they start, how they're grown, what it takes, to make, cinnamon off a cinnamon bark or, what is like lobster and crab, like how, like, what does it actually entail to do? And it'd be cooler to see that than talk about it. And so that's why we were like, if we could be in the ears, but also on the TV, then it's like a perfect full circle kind of moment.
How often do you two actually physically get together? You're a little bit spread apart, not too far apart, but far apart enough that you're actually able to coordinate. How does that all work in with everything that you have to do every day in your regular lives? Yeah.
We actually see each other probably a lot more than people would think. It's pretty surprising even to us, but I would say we see each other at least once a month. The way it works out, we obviously record our podcast weekly, and so that is virtual. So just like we're doing here today, I feel like podcasting technology strides. It's just amazing how we can connect with people, near and far. But we do a lot of traveling. Our podcast is Discover Ag. We do a lot of discovering across the country, whether we're going to different shows, different events. Right now, Western culture is having a huge moment. So sometimes attending things like rodeos, PBR, country music festivals, all of those kind of things. And so we will meet up in different places and get to work, wherever these events are. And so it's a really great way, even though we're thousands of miles apart, to be able to connect and bring our visions to life.
I love asking content creators this, and both of you specialize in this, and whether from social or from the podcast or the TV, whatever it is, you are creating amazing content that's a gift to the listeners, the viewers, whoever it might be. But there's always this happy accident that happens that is a gift in return to the content creators themselves. In putting together Discover Ag, what has been the gift for each of you? Natalie, I'll go with you first.
Yeah, I think it's actually hearing how things we have talked about have changed people's perspective on, again, maybe like rural America, maybe Western culture, maybe like what a farmer and rancher does. It's actually very interesting and, as you said, rewarding to see the many different ways that it could affect them, whether they're, after listening to your show, I shop in the grocery store different, or after listening to your show, I have, started following farmers, or, whatever it is. I feel like it's touched people's lives in a lot of different ways, because that's, what food does. And I think for me, that's been like one of the give backs for sure.
How about you, Tara?
Yeah, I'll have to go off of that theme as well. I also love our community calls themselves discos. And so our discos, I love seeing their interaction. Sometimes, our podcast is a mix of entertainment and education. And some of our harder hitting topics, like there's not always a right or a wrong answer. And I love seeing like our community's discussion about things. It has made me so much more informed, because agriculture is so vast, and how we grow our food and the food that people connect with is so vast. And so being able to have people from across the country be able to share, what's happening in their region, or what they're seeing, or what food trends they're picking up on, and being able to share that with everyone is just such a unique experience that I love seeing.
I think that one of the most unique things, and I'm taking a stigma out there, is when most people think of agriculture and farmers, I don't necessarily think of two female millennials. I think that might be a true thing. And I want to ask you that question, because obviously there's plenty of people in that. I'm getting a smile here from Natalie. How has that aspect been in effect, and how it's helped you maybe raise awareness to the community of so many people that probably fit into what you guys are doing and everything else?
Yeah, for sure. Agriculture is definitely a male-dominated industry. It's safe to say that, even with the, more involvement in women, which we are seeing, you're actually seeing more and more women being like female farm, like managers and owners than we ever have historically. And you're also just seeing, even if it's not that far, you're just seeing women being evolved in agriculture in a lot of different ways than historically you would naturally think of. So it's been really cool to be a representation of that. And like you said, it's also really cool to kind of break that stigma and stereotype that when, people are like, oh, it's a dairy farmer and a cattle rancher, and then Tara and I hop on and they see our faces. It's just fun to break that down for them. It feels like it's a connection point, which again, I'm pretty proud of and really love that strides for the agriculture industry.
I think it's awesome stuff. I also think it is important for everyone to understand the effects of this. And this is where one of the questions I'll go with. Look, to the person that doesn't know this, there is one common theme that everyone always hears. There's big ag, who's basically taking over all the small farmers of the world. We've had small farmers, local farmers. We've even had musicians who were trying to raise money for local farmers come on the program and feature their stuff. Talk about connecting to that community and the challenge of that, because it is, there's always a big business, small business, mom and pop thing fighting in every industry. And there's no industry that seems to get more of that stress than that. To each of you, how has that affected each of your lives, and how that might even come out in the content that you share with everybody in the world, and the aspect and view that you guys have?
Oh gosh, this is a deep conversation. I'm going to be like, how long do we have left on this?
Whatever you
Because
want.
it is a really complicated issue, and like you said, it's not something unique. I don't think to agriculture. I think it's something that is across the board in business, like the big versus the small guys. And for agriculture, I think one thing that's getting lost in the conversation when we talk about this is what is big ag or what is factory farming is a term I'll see online. And a lot of times people will, I think, confuse kind of like farming and ranching with maybe like big food actually. Because in my mind, when I think of like the differences, for the most part across the board, I think it's 97% of all farms in the United States are family owned and operated. And so overwhelmingly, no matter the size of the farm, it is family owned and operated. But then on the flip side, in, for example, the beef world, you have the big four packers. So you've got, the JBS, the Cargills. In my mind, that's quote unquote big ag. Or if you want to look at big food, you look at like the Nestle's of the world, like the companies there's a graph that Natalie shares during one of her keynote speeches that is the breakdown of what companies own all the other, like how many food brands, right? Like that there's a very small amount of companies that actually own a vast majority of our products, whether that's PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, all of those big names that you think of. And so I think there is some like nuance to this conversation of like what is in our food system big versus small. And in the big scheme of things, no matter how big of a farm you are, you're kind of small potatoes compared to the PepsiCos and Coca-Colas and Nestle's of the world.
Love it. Good take, and it's definitely the angle that everyone's at. This is a question that I'll bleed into our fun street here before we go to the admin part of the show. The content and stuff that you guys have created, you are wearing lots of hats. You're running your respective ranches and farms. You are communicating out this message. You're doing the TV show. You're podcasting. You're probably doing a lot of other things that people can't see behind the scenes. Which hat do you like to put on each day the most? What's your favorite hat to wear?
Oh,
Natalie,
I do
you
love our
first.
podcasting hat. It is really fun. When Tara and I started the podcast, we were kind of like, well, we'll just see if we like it, and maybe we'll do seasons and we'll take summer off. And we have barely missed a date since starting it. I think this is the first holiday. This past Christmas was one of the first holidays we took off. This Thanksgiving too. So it's funny how quickly both of us fell in love with the podcasting format. So I think right now that's probably my favorite hat I put on.
And Tara, same for you? I'm seeing a lot of nodding.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that both Natalie and I are very like multifaceted people, and it's like the podcast doesn't exist without our time on our farm and our ranch. And like with farming and ranching, we always jokingly say it's the ultimate bring your kids to work day. I actually homeschool, so my kids are literally, home with me on the farm, and Natalie still has littles that aren't even in school full time. So it's funny, like the to me, it's almost hard to separate the hats out because the podcast is our love of agriculture and wanting to share that with other people. Like it's really cool to see where your food is grown and where it comes from. And the podcast is getting to do that. But that doesn't exist without getting to be out, with our husbands and our families out on the farms and ranches. So I don't know. Yeah, creatively, I love the podcast. And as Natalie said, we didn't know what we started when we started the podcast. It has definitely snowballed into so much more and such a love and a passion of both of ours.
Love it. Let's do the admin part of the show. Share with the listeners all the places people can learn about Discover Ag. Not AG, Discover Ag, but no one will misspell it here. That's for sure. Websites, URL, social handles. We'll put it in the show notes. Gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Of course. So if you're tuning in right now, you're obviously a podcast person. So you can hop on over to Discover Ag. We're on any podcasting platform. I am holding a chicken on our cover art, and Tara's holding a hot dog, and you'll see us in denim. And that is how you know you have landed on the right podcast. Beyond that, we are on social media. Most of our handles are under Discover Ag. So we're on Instagram. We also are just dabbling in TikTok. We decided, hey, they're going to take it away. So why don't we just start now with it, And then our website is Discover Ag. And then we also do have personal. Both of those would be under our names, Natalie Kovarik and Tara Vander Dussen.
Love it. I'm laughing because we did the same thing over here very recently. Yeah, they're about to take it away. Let's go on it right now.
Let's do it. Let's go all in.
Timing.
Let's go before it crashes. I've got a lot of contacts and listeners and people that work on this show that live in India. They can't even access TikTok over there. So yeah, it's a wave of interest going on. Okay, we are going to go down Fun Street, and here's how we roll. We'll ease onto this highway. I want to ask you guys each of your own questions here. Are you guys fans of movies?
Oh, I'd say yes.
Okay, yeah. Do you guys have an all-time favorite movie? Like one of those that if it's on, you're looped in. If it's on some cable channel or something, you're just
Oh
sucked right
gosh,
into
mine's
watching it.
so embarrassing.
There's nothing embarrassing here. Let's hear what we got. Come on, Tara.
No, I feel like it's like not even like that. It's not like a classic movie. Like I'm not listing like some great like, Western classic or anything. But I am a sucker for How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. If that is on, like I will watch Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey all day long, falling in love. Listen, sometimes you just need a good romantic comedy, and that is the best one.
How about you, Tara? How about you, Natalie? Sorry.
I can't even think of one. I feel like I watch series. One of my favorite, most recent, Schitt's Creek has always been a favorite series of mine. And then I started watching Only Murders in the Building.
Yep.
And I really, really loved that. So I'm going to answer your question of movies into TV series.
Got it. As for, apologies, guys. Let's go down Fun Street here. We are going to do the Speakeasy Pub Crawl. We're going to stop at all the fun places that mean a lot to you. And each one of these stops on Fun Street is all the only thing that you care about. So there's no wrong answers. We can't go wrong. All right. Natalie, to start off, is there a song of late that's like your jam or something that pumps you up?
Oh, this is a Natalie question if there ever was one.
Well, it's not, because I love music so much that you're asking me, a very, very hard question.
Well, I'm getting something now, like something in the moment right about now that's worth talking about.
Okay, so there's a couple country songs. I usually try, actually, one of my favorite things to do is to find artists that are kind of undiscovered. I'm like, the world has enough Taylor Swifts. We don't need more of her music being pushed out. Like, who can we feature that is an up-and-coming person that no one, has maybe heard of? And there is a young man that I think will be, if you're in the country music scene, like a little bit alternative country, I think he'll be really big this year. And his name is Jack Wharf. And I've been into his music a lot recently.
Gotcha. Tara, do you have a tune?
Yeah, so I am not our music person on the podcast. I hate to say that, but it's true. I let Natalie take that title gladly. But no, I actually have been really loving all of the crossover artists into country music. Like I have just been loving, like, we have Post Malone, we have Jelly Roll, we have Machine Gun Kelly, like we have the Machine Gun Kelly Jelly Roll collab, like that came out, what was that, like last summer? I really, really love seeing that and seeing the new people that is bringing to country music and how that's changing and shaking things up and bringing like just a new spirit to the genre. I mean, everyone loves the classic countries as well, but it's kind of fun seeing where we're going with country music.
Tara, favorite food that's not a dessert?
Oh my gosh, I'm such a dessert fan.
We'll get there. Don't you worry.
Oh, okay, good. Because listen, I am a huge foodie. That is what I do on the podcast. Is I bring good food. I feel like always to the podcast. But no, I can't go wrong with a good medium rare filet steak. I mean, you just can't. Like that's a classic. If I had to eat like one food for the rest of my life, it would probably be that steak with all the sides and all the fixings and all the things. But the primary of the plate would be that filet.
Natalie, same question to you.
Chips and salsa.
Oh, I was about to say, if she says anything but chips and salsa, she's lying.
Natalie, what is a favorite dessert?
Creme brulee.
And we get to get your dessert now, Tara. What do you like?
I am obsessed with chocolate chip cheesecake.
Ooh, it's a good one.
I love cheesecake, but I love a little bit of chocolate with it.
All right. Tara, an activity you wish you did more of?
Oh gosh. Actually, so my family is really into going to the sand dunes and camping, and this has just not been the year for us to get to go do that. I wish I had more time to go out to the sand dunes with my family. We, have a side-by-side, a UTV that we go on. More time for that would be lovely.
Natalie.
So one of my, New Year's resolutions is actually, I feel like I have used a lot of my creativity online for the past, 5-6 years. And so it is to get back to doing creative things in the world around me. And so I grew up playing piano. I'm excited to get back into playing piano a bit more. I want to take up calligraphy. I think I want to kind of dabble with. So those anything that falls under the things I'm going to be trying this year is the activity I wish I did more of.
Natalie, an activity you wish you did less of?
Oh, that's a good question. Picking up after my children.
Oh my gosh, that's the most. That's mine too. I second that. I feel like after a Christmas break of, we've had snow, the kids have been indoors probably more than they usually are, and I'm like, please go outside. You can make a disaster of the outside, but please, I don't want to pick up the house anymore. Good choice, Natalie.
I know.
Okay.
We have a farm and ranch right out our doors, so I don't know why our children.
Go play. Go play.
Yeah.
Find a barn cat.
Tara, a new activity, one that you've recently tried that you like so much you want to tell all of our listeners and viewers to try.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. I wish Natalie would have got this one first instead of me.
Not only will get this, but she got it second. Sorry.
Okay, new activity that I wish I would start. Wait, say that again.
A new activity that you've recently tried that you can want to tell everybody else to try.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Natalie, do you have something? You go. I don't know.
It's not great, but what instantly came to mind is I have been on a journey of switching over skincare products, which I feel like will resonate with a lot of women. And I switched to beef tallow recently. And not that men cannot use beef tallow either, but I wish more women would or men would journey over to the beef tallow, dry brushing and beef tallow.
I have mine. I wish more cooking. I feel like I used to cook a lot more, like before I had kids, like got really into recipes and things. And I recently made a couple recipes, brought back a few old classics. And I was like, gosh, I love this so much. I wish I would get back into recipe creating and not like, it's spaghetti night again, like get back into the creating the recipes and cooking at home.
Natalie, if I could snap my fingers and you could be anywhere in the world, where are you?
Well, I grew up in Montana, so I might jump back to my family ranch there. It's a very beautiful part of the state. Obviously, all my family lives there, so I'd love to see them. Otherwise, my laundry list of where I would like to travel in the world is rather extensive, and I'd probably have to pick heading up north and doing like Banff, or heading overseas and doing Scotland or Ireland.
Oh, lovely. Tara.
Yeah, not even close to Natalie's. I'm not going anywhere cold. We've had snow this week, and that's not happening.
I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, I have a beach destination, but I'm going to go with something else. Something that has been, I don't know, my TikTok algorithm is just feeding me going to South Africa. And maybe because it's summer there right now and it's winter here, but doing a South African trip, I think would be amazing. Just going, I mean, it's just so unlike any place I've ever been. So that is high on my bucket list right now.
Natalie Kovarik, Tara Vander Dussen, everybody's got to check out Discover Ag, DISCOVERAG. See, I could spell too. Everywhere, online, websites, TV, you name it. So glad to have you on. Thank you guys for what you're doing. Really appreciate it. Great content. Keep it going. Can't wait to see what comes in 2025.
Thank you.
To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.